Studio with friends this morning. It's Sufjan Stevens playing some songs from the new album. It's called Illinois. First time we've actually had a chance to meet, so again, welcome. Thanks for coming in and doing our program.
Thanks for having us.
Let's maybe get a little bit of background info before we talk about this album and talk about you and where you're from. You're from Michigan originally, right? And you did an album called Michigan, which we'll talk to about in a moment. But where did you grow up?
Well, I was born in Detroit, and I lived there till I was about 9, and then we moved up north. And I spent most of my life in northern Michigan, in the countryside.
Describe that to us, because for people who have never been there, it's quite a unique place and perhaps not what you would expect about Michigan, right?
Well, Michigan, you know, up in the country is kind of the land of rivers and lakes. You know, it's surrounded by the Great Lakes, and you just walk a few miles and you're probably going to run into some sort of river or lake or pond or stream or something. So we did a lot of fishing and hiking when I was a kid.
Did you play any music as a kid?
A little bit, yeah. I learned the recorder at the Waldorf school in first grade, and then in elementary school, I was kind of coaxed into playing the oboe. So I joined the band, the school band, and played the oboe.
Now, what sort of music would you play on the oboe in the school band?
Oh man, we did like these renditions of like Wham covers and like really bad like John Philip Sousa marches. But yeah, I remember doing some like Louie Louie as well.
Interesting stuff. Now, where did you end up going to college? Because I think, based on our conversation before we went on the air, things sort of started to shift for you a little bit once you went to college, right?
Yeah. Well, I went and studied writing, and eventually went to the graduate school at the New School for Social Research in New York City, and that's when I kind of got interested in writing and fiction writing.
Now, is that something that you wanted to do originally? Did you see yourself as a published writer?
Well, that was kind of my goal when I moved to New York. I wanted to publish a book. So I took all these classes, and I even taught a few after I graduated and worked on a manuscript, but never got anywhere. And eventually music became kind of the main kind of element in my life.
But it was more of a sort of sideways move for you, wasn't it, really?
I guess so, yeah. I mean, I thought I would be, at this point, I would be published, and I would be teaching at a university, and I would be kind of an old man, an old professor somewhere at a university in the Midwest.
Could still happen.
Yeah.
You're still a young guy.
I guess so, yeah. I just have to get a pipe and a beer and a library and that kind of stuff.
It's all about the library, I think.
Yeah.
So obviously sort of then shifting and moving across to music, but you've taken this literary approach to your music, haven't you?
I guess I sort of had. I guess a lot of the stuff that I learned in workshops and studying literature has informed my writing, and I do read a lot when I'm writing songs. So for a lot of times I'm making allusions to other books and other stories anyway.
Now, you've done a number of albums over the years. I think it's almost one a year at this point, right?
I guess so, yeah.
When did you decide that you wanted to do the States? Michigan, I guess, was the first one. You did an album about your home state in 2003. Tell us first of all about that one and how that decision came about.
Well, I guess I had moved to New York, as I said, and I was not thinking at all about music. But when I started writing again, I was thinking back to my childhood, and the songs just naturally became kind of an assemblage of stories and songs that were recollections from memory, from places that I had grown up in. And I thought, well, wouldn't this be an interesting endeavor, you know, in research and surveying kind of the whole landscape and seeing how, you know, each state and each town, each county, you know, can tell its own story.
That's quite an undertaking, though, to decide that. And you're onto the second one with Illinois. Why? Obviously, home state. We got that one out of the way. Why Illinois?
Oh,
it's
man.
next door, I guess.
I guess, yeah, because they're neighbors.
Yeah.
It's in a different time zone, but it's still the Midwest. I guess we sort of were envious of Illinois growing up because Illinois had Chicago, which was like a healthy, vibrant city, and Michigan had Detroit, which was kind of a failed industrial city. So maybe that's why I chose Illinois next, because I was kind of had some awe and wonder for Chicago, and I was interested in maybe you know, using that for songs.
What were you reading at the time that you were working on this album?
I read some books on frontier life and immigration in Illinois. I read Saul Bellow, and I read the poems of Carl Sandburg.
So how would you describe this album? I mean, as I look at the sleeve notes to this album and the titles of the songs, again, it's a very literary rendition of the songs. When you finished it and you look at it now and you say, okay, this all ties into Illinois, but how would you describe it?
Well, I think it's a big celebration. There's a lot of pageantry and a lot of flourishes, and it seems like a celebration of civilization, of man, and what it means to be American and these things. But it's, it's also a deeper survey into like what it means to be a human being. There's a lot of trauma on the record too. There's a lot of, terror and horror and things like that. And I guess it's just kind of a geographical tone poem, put to music.
What's next?
What state?
Yeah.
I don't know yet. I'm working on a few at the same time, on Oregon, Rhode Island, and New Jersey, the musical. New Jersey's going to be all about the exits on the turnpike.
There's a lot of them. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Listen, we'll throw it back to you for our last set. I know you're going to play some more songs from the new album and something from the last one as well. But we'll throw it back to you. We'll come back. We'll give away some tickets to the show that you're doing up in LA this weekend. There's also a show at the Belly Up in San Diego tomorrow night, which kicks off this tour. We'll come back and we'll wrap up our conversation and set with Sufjan Stevens after the next couple of songs here on Morning Becomes Eclectic.